Baruch Hashem, Rabbi Eede, tremendous pleasure. Thank you, Yossel.
Thank you.
We're in the Shahakal. Tremendous pleasure to be here and to be learning together. All the wonderful new faces. The ganze Olam. We should be Zoicha Mamish to learn the Torah, to love learning Torah. Just to love Torah. So Bezrat Hashem, we're at the end of this Torah L'Kutei Moharan that we've been working on for the past 5 months. And we're going to be starting a new Torah soon. So be aware that there's a journey that we go on throughout the course of the year, going through the Torahs of Rabbi Nachman. What's the mission of learning these Torahs? What's the purpose? To awaken our soul. To awaken our soul of the great days of Mashiach that are coming. Like Rabbi Nachman said, Aish HaTorah, that bias in Mashiach, that my light is going to get stronger and stronger as we're moving towards the Messianic unfolding. You're going to see more of the light of Nachman starting to awaken people's souls out of their anxiety, out of their darkness, out of their challenges, out of their frustrations, out of their pettiness, out of their smallness, out of their gashmiousness. And we're starting to see an awakening that human beings are starting to re-identify with the core of who they are. And could there be anything more simchadik, that's basically Yiddish for simchadik, than being in touch with my soul, my truest identity. And to the degree that I'm in touch with my soul, my true identity, I feel tremendous happiness in my life. And Rabbi Nachman is kol kuloi, dedicated to tapping us into the mission of our soul, to understand our soul, to see the relationship between our souls together, Team Humanity, Yossel, which we're going to be rolling out more soon. And Bezrat Hashem, we've been in this very long Torah, this very deep Torah. And when you learn of Nachman, everything is essential. Every idea in the Torah, it's like putting together like a puzzle. That everything that the tzaddik speaks about is layers upon layers of depth. And one of the analogies of learning the Torah of Rabbi Nachman is like a person who goes into like a house, and he enters into the house, and he goes, sometimes you see these houses that have staircases that go one to the right, one to the left, and he goes up the right staircase, and he starts moving to the right wing of the house, the eastern wing of the house, and he goes into what looks like a library, and he goes into the library, and he's looking around the library, and all of a sudden he opens up a door from the library, and he sees that he's on the roof. But he doesn't know how he got to the roof because he was kind of still on the main floor, and the roof was many floors up. He's on the roof of the house, and he's looking around, and he sees a little opening there, and he opens up the opening, and next thing he finds himself in the wine cellar of the house. And everywhere he moves in the house, he sees that one idea takes him to this place, and he thought that he was on the western side of the house, and all of a sudden he's on the eastern side, he's on the roof, he's in the wine cellar. And every idea in Rabbi Nachman is like a puzzle that's like, I don't know how many, 72 dimensions, the Gematria Chesed, that he's moving through this universe. And each place that he goes creates healing in his soul on different levels. That he thinks he's learning something up here, but next thing he realizes there's fixing, there's all sorts of healing happening in my soul in this area. I thought that I was doing something here, and Rabbi Nachman's doing like open heart surgery over here. And therefore this is a tremendous opportunity for people that, whether they know it or not, are seeking more connection to their soul, are seeking healing, are seeking global healing, which we're so much in need of right now in the world. There's so much confusion in the world to bring global healing and bring blessing to the world. So we've been moving through this major Torah. The main themes of the Torah have been Emunas Chachamim. If I were to ask you, what's the simple meaning of Emunas Chachamim? Simple pshat. We're holding in the shahako here. What's the simple meaning of Emunas Chachamim?
Believe what the rabbis tell you.
Believe what the rabbis say. When Ovadia Yosef says,
You do it.
you listen. And you do. This is Rabbi Ovadia.
Oh.
What he says, Abia Omer. He said it. Do it. So for the Sfardim, it's very pashut in many ways. I'm speaking to myself. The Ashkenazim, there's different challenges. It's a different thing. So that's the simple meaning of Emunas Chacham. And Rabbi Nachman is building on this idea that make sure to listen to the Chachamim, because the Chachamim have a wise way of seeing the world. Essentially, what they're trying to do is the whole Torah began with these words. And Ali de Emunas Chacham. So pay attention. These words are like going through these trapdoors in the sense. Ali de Emunas Chacham, through Emuna in the Chacham, which is, by the way, an interesting thing. Let's just pause that for a second. If somebody's a Chacham, why do I need to have Emuna in him? Emuna seems to be something distant from me. A Chacham is somebody who's smart. Do you need so much Emunah to believe in Rabbi Ovadia Yosef? Or you're just a fool not to? You need Emunah? Okay, Emunah means like there's a gap. I need Emunah. A Chacham is somebody that just makes sense to follow. Even the idea of Emunas Chachamim, I'm putting this out, you probably heard this term maybe many times in your life growing up, and wherever, Frisch and other schools, wonderful places. The idea of Emunas Chachamim. But even the concept itself is a stira. When you really think about it, if he's a Chacham, I should listen to him. If he's not a Chacham, then I don't. Emunah implies something far. So I'll leave you guys to think about that, because it's a very deep concept, Emunas Chacham. But the simple meaning of Emunas Chacham is that I listen to Rabbi Ovadia. And if I do that, Yechoyel lahaitzi mishpateinu la'or. These four words are very cryptic, seemingly. I'm able to take mishpat. How do you translate mishpat?
Judgment.
Judgment, decision making. Like a judge has to make a mishpat, he has to make a decision. How does he make a mishpat? He has two litigants. One says, the other guy's guilty. You're guilty. You owe me $200. No, I don't owe you $200. So the judge has to make a mishpat. He has to listen to Reuven, listen to Shimon, and see what are the claims that Reuven's making that make sense. What are the claims that Shimon's making that make sense? The judge is not able to be one-sided, right? He's not allowed to take a shochat. He can't take a bribe. He has to be somebody that's wise enough to, I can hear what you're saying, I can hear what you're saying, but really there has to be a middle way to hear both of what each person's saying and then come to a conclusion that really took both opinions into effect. Because the judge doesn't just listen to Reuven, even if he thinks Reuven's right, he has to hear out Shimon's opinion. So there's something called emunas chachamim that allows a person to be balanced in their decision making because they can listen to different opinions. Just even that is an important concept. Anybody ever have a situation where somebody was speaking and you weren't, at a certain point you just stopped listening to any word they were saying because you just knew what you wanted to say back? And you're like, when will you stop talking? Because I got some real good rebuttal to say, and like, I'm being polite enough not to interrupt you, but I'm not listening to a single word you're saying. So that's not mishpat emes. I'm not even listening to what you have to say. And so much nowadays saddens me on what they call these like debates that go on, is really just yelling, two talking heads yelling at each other with ad hominems, not even listening to the points that the other one is making. One of the things that you guys will learn in your Gemara learning is that Gemara learning is so much the opposite of that, because it actually makes a person listen to the point that was made and then address the point that was made. It's such a systematic way for you to listen to ideas and then think, was this a sensible idea? Was it not a sensible idea? How do I relate to this idea? And then I'm formulating an opinion based on hearing other people's perspectives. Did I really hear what Rashi had to say, or did I just put my shot on Rashi before I heard Rashi? And then what about Tosfos? He also has what to say. Tosfos has a lot to say. Am I listening? Am I open to Tosfos' opinion on the matter? And you start really hearing out. And then, by the way, you could have your understanding in Tosfos because you listen to Tosfos. So this whole Torah seems to be this ability to go and understand that, you know who really does this the best? A Chacham. Rabbi Eede Yosef listens all the sides and he creates mishpat emes. He creates, and that's called or, by the way, that's called light. When a person lives with this, that he's able to hear other people's opinions, and other people may have to defend their opinion, because if somebody says something to you, and you listen to what they say, and then you give a rebuttal to them, so they have to be willing to defend it. In our generation, people don't like to do that. It's my truth. Well, can you defend it? It's just my truth. Truth is something that we're all working to find. And that's what the Gemara is, the pursuit of emes. So who are the people that do this the best? The tzaddikim. So if you were to start this Torah, you would think, well, the whole thing is basically going to those who know how to do this. If I trust in them, then good things will happen to me. As the Rebbe goes through the Torah, and then he cautions you to be careful of people that are not doing this. People that are one-sided people. People that are too tribal. He calls them the Rebbe She'ena Hagim. Fascinating. The Rebbe She'ena Hagim. The one that only goes to the right, or only goes to the left. Where do we see that in the Torah? Lo yisasser. Yamin is small. When it talks about the mitzvah and emunas chachamim, it says be careful not to veer to the right, to veer to the left, but go to the chacham who's able to have a balanced approach to the situation. But last week's parsha. Emunas chachamim. Don't go to the right, don't go to the left. Ani Yemini. I'm on the right side of history. Left side. Leftist. Rightist. Smolani. Yemini. Can we hear out each other's opinion? No! Republican! You want to listen? No! Democrat! Can we at least have a conversation here? No, just yell. Yeah.
Isn't it fair to say that different Chachamim themselves either mean like either right or left? Because not all Chachamim say the exact same thing. There aren't in the middle.
So that's the side. There's no right or left. It's in the middle. They're listening to each opinion. It's not like there's one right and one left. It's that they're able to hear right and left. They're able to hear. If you're right, if Reuven is standing to the right of the judge and Shimon is standing to the left, so is Reuven like rightist? And even his ideas, what you consider right. So he's not focusing on the rightness of the idea, meaning right in political sense, or the leftistness to the idea. He's trying to hear out all the ideas and see what made sense about what Reuven said, what made sense about what Shimon said. Let's find the middle path. This is the greatness of Chachamim, of being able to be balanced and find the middle path. Yes, Yosef.
Is there such an idea that, let's say, like, the generation has steered way too far in one direction, either left or right, that you yourself could counteract that and go very far left or very far right, so you could reach the derech? So it's like the middle path, without
Sometimes that is the way. This would be something based on the Rambam. Let's say a person, God forbid, is angry. So he needs to be very careful to go to the opposite extreme. Be very calm. Because he's got to come back to the middle. If somebody is stingy. So, even though generally you're not supposed to just give humongous sums to charity. You're supposed to give a lot. But this person who is going through a stingy period of his life, like Scrooge, or Mr. Burns. So Mr. Burns, it's almost Rosh Hashanah, saying Mr. Burns wants a tikkun. It's Elul. I don't know, does that show still exist? Simpsons?
Yeah.
They make new episodes?
Season 36.
Season 36, Lamed Vav Tzadikim. 36. That's 36 Masechtas. This is not, it's like a shleimus to the whole thing. So if Mr. Burns wants a tikkun, he would do well. And who's the guy? Speaks. Who makes the thing?
Matt Graham wrote.
Matt Graham?
I think that was the
Matt
original.
Groening.
Groening.
Still around? So I'm saying if he's listening to this, then I think if you would make Mr. Burns get like a final tikkun, he should be so much a giver. That'd be the best last episode of Simpsons. I'm proposing the best last episode of Simpsons ever. What's the best last episode of Simpsons? Everybody comes to the middle path. Mr. Burns becomes like a super giver. Like mamish all the way to that other side because he was such a stingy guy his whole life. He turns like his nuclear power plant to like a giant base midrash that has the nuclear energy of Torah learning. And then all the characters do their tikkun, always coming back to the middle path. Because it's always about getting back to the middle path. So who does this the best? Who sees the middle path? Who lives with the middle path? Those are the Chachamim. Then, all of a sudden, the Torah goes on and it lists that you know what you should do? You have to look inside yourself and believe in yourself. Wait a second, I thought this Torah is about believing in the Chacham. I thought it's not about believing in myself. It's about knowing that Rabbi Ovadia Yosef knows how to do this. I should just get close to him. But here we see an amazing thing from the Torah. Is that this idea of Emunas Chacham is, yes, one part of it is that I know that there are tzaddikim in the world that are exceptionally balanced. But I also know that in my own soul, I have the ability to find balance. And I look inwards to myself, that I can also find this balance. The Chachamim will teach me how to do this. But it's not exclusive. To be a Jew doesn't mean follow the leader. It also means follow the rabbis, but it means that I also have a light within me that could guide me. I have to go in and find that balanced place and find what's called the derech hamamutza, the middle path. So one of the themes of this Torah is everything to be balanced, everything balanced. And the Torah goes on. There's many, many layers of this Torah. Yeah, Itchy?
So it seems like when it comes to the Torah itself and God is speaking to people, there isn't really middle ground, right? When we didn't kill out all of Amalek, that seemed like there was no middle. Oh, get the bad ones, but maybe the kids and the animals, they should be like, no, like all of them, right? So is there really a middle ground when it comes to things that are said directly from God or that are written in the Torah? Or is it more like monetary matters, like more,
Good question.
nowadays?
Hashem himself says that I want there to be Torah Sheba'al Peh. Torah Sheba'al Peh is the world that God will say something. Hashem says 40 lashes. And the rabbi's like, 30 lashes. How did that happen? God said it. There's certain things that when you really understand, God gave us the Torah that we should have a portion in it, that we're helping, so to speak, that God wants us to go in the middle path. And He gave us a Torah that we ourselves can develop the abilities of finding that middle path, which is very empowering. He gave you and I a power inside of us to find the middle path, to find the healthy way forward, not to be such an extremist, to really find the middle path. And to know that if something is purely evil, so the middle path in that case may be that has to be gone. But the Torah will guide you to think and to feel and to be sensitive to not be an extremist, to find what is be'emes, what's for real the middle path, and look at the tzaddikim. They will help guide us. When you look at the Rosh Hashiva, you see a human being that's just living in such a balanced, so loving, but at the same time with so much gevura and justice, that of law and order, but at the same time so much humanness and love. And you see that one human being is able to experience all the opinions, all the sides, but at the same time take it into a middle path. And the middle path is very pleasant. Yeah, yes.
I've got a controversial question.
How controversial?
Not too kind of controversial. So, as far as extremism and as far as Emunas Chachamim and as far as the Derek HaMamutzos, you see today, within Israel, there's a lot of internal division, and the Gedolei Yisrael are saying that the Bahrim should stand up for themselves and should, resist what the state is
It's a very
asking.
complex thing. It's a very, very complex.
And some, I guess, very pro-Israel people are saying, oh, the Chachamim are extremists. But they would say, no, you guys have gone so extreme on one side that we're taking a position that might seem extreme within that context. But
Very
it's all to
complex.
guide us towards the middle path.
It's very, very complex. The main thing to focus on at this point is just a tremendous love for every single Yid. That should be the undercurrent of everything that a person is feeling, a tremendous love. Also know that things are very complex, very complex. We're talking about many, many layers, more than most people have an understanding of all the layers of the story. And that itself, in your own emunas chacham within yourself, believing in your chachma, is balanced enough to say that there's probably more information that I don't know, and that's honest, as opposed to taking one side in a position. You'll notice very big people, if they don't have all the information at hand, they're honest enough to say, I don't have all the information, so I can't give a fully developed opinion on the matter, and that's balanced to be able to say that. If you ask a rabbi something, and he doesn't know the answer, and he's like, it's this. And he gives you an answer. That's not balanced. It would be better if he said, I don't know. What do you mean, you don't know? So then, that's not balanced, because you don't know. But that's actually balanced because it's taking into account there's things that I know, there's things that I don't know. This is one of the things that I don't know. And in the balanced approach of all the questions that person ever asked this Rebbe, he knows that sometimes he knows it, sometimes he doesn't know it, and that's actually an honest approach forward. So this is a very complex topic, very complex. And within this also, you should be looking for the balance. You should be listening to all the sides, hearing, trying to find the derech hamamutza. Yes, my friend, remind me your name?
Dovi Press.
Dovi, great to have you, brother.
Thank you, Rabbi. How do you argue with, or not argue, but how do you have a conversation with somebody if you disagree and you're trying to take the path where you're trying to find a balanced decision, but the other person is like very stuck in their ways and not willing to hear your side?
So, you just blow the shofar for them, hopefully it'll wake them up. I think one of the things to do is that always have the moral high ground. Oftentimes when you're in a discussion with somebody, if they're not going with this Torah of trying to hear the derech hamamutza and hear all the sides, you may realize that this is not a conversation that you could really have because the conversation's already done in their head. And therefore, it may be better just if they're trying to engage you and push you into it, just to say, smile, thank you so much. They're not open to the discussion, and therefore, I don't know if there's a mitzvah to engage in it. But if you see that somebody's really open to hearing an opinion, then engage in that. Engage in that discussion. But if you feel someone's really closed up, and they're just like slinging, a lot of times it comes into ad hominems, slinging ad hominems, and it's not a respectful dialogue and a meeting of minds. It used to be that debate was a real meeting of minds. And that was something that people would win the debate based on the strength of their argument and not the volume of their voice. And nowadays things have changed. It's that whoever can kind of clip the short and make it look like the other guy looked foolish for a second, I was like, yay! Which is just, we've gone very far down in our ability of real discourse and speaking to ideas, as opposed to, my father would always say, he said that it used to be that we were people of an idea and a word. You would give somebody an idea to think about, you'd give them a word, meaning the word, and they would think about that, they would speak to that. Then we transitioned to the image and the emotion. Everything is just the image and the emotion. Some Snapchat image is just like, and the emotion that goes along with it, and it pulls your philosophy and your worldview based on that image and that emotion. But I think one of the things that are beneficial is that we're seeing long-form podcast style come back into the world, where Lex Friedman will sit down with somebody for 11 hours, and especially if you watch the whole thing, I don't usually have that much time, but if you would, you can get a pretty good feel of what's going on with this person. Now, what's going to happen afterwards? Everyone's going to chop them all up into little bits and then do the same thing, bring people back to the image and the emotion. But the world is starting to demand more, I think. They're starting to look for, who is this person? And if you sit with them on camera for 11 hours, you could kind of fake yourself out for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Once, the camera's just rolling, and you just see who this person is. So you start to meet the person again. You see what's really going on here. I think it's a very, very powerful thing. Now, where you really see this, and it's great illumination? Tzaddikim. Spend time with tzaddikim. It's not like they go home after, services and like pop on the television, crack a brewski and some nacho chips and cheese. Good thing none of the congregants are here. That's not what's going on. You go and spend time with tzaddikim, they live in the conversation that we were talking about yesterday. Yes, my friend.
Yeah, so...
What's your name?
Avi Oker.
Avi? Pleasure, brother.
What do you do in a situation where it's a conversation you have to have, you need to have it for whatever reason, there comes a time, and you find the person you're having the conversation with is just so far in the extreme that you can't bring them back to the middle ground, and yet you still have to like resolve the conflict somehow.
Show love. Try to find whatever place that you meet, that you do share common ground, and just share it in a place of love. Always, always keep the moral high ground. Never descend down to any level of getting emotionally insulted. Always retain a level of your midas, tovas, and to the best that you can, have a conversation. Usually a lot of people, if they feel that you've got something against them, so they're going to be on like the fight mode. But if you're just nice to them, pleasant, maybe go for some steak and wine together, and you could just like break down the barriers of like the fight or flight response that you're seeing from the person, and you can come to a place of shared space. Oftentimes that lets people's barriers down. Maybe you have a cup of tea with the person. Can we talk about this over a cup of coffee? Like, could we be civil and then begin this, important discussion that we need to have? Or does it have to be like right now at the protest when everyone's yelling and there's megaphones and everyone's cameras are on? Like, is that the place to have the conversation? Or is that a place that's you're just trying to stoke anger and fire and fighting? You really want to talk about this issue? Let's go to, your local kosher Starbucks, and let's just sit down, the ones that don't serve the chazer, and let's just sit and let's have a cup of coffee, and let's talk this out. If you really want to talk it out, and we could really speak about the ideas at hand, and maybe we'll get somewhere. Yeah, Itchy, and then Dylan.
So let's say that you're, not you, Chas v'shalom, but the one asking the question, sometimes be very stuck in their ways, right? I think for all of us, we have moments where we feel so like justified in something, and we are the ones that are having trouble seeing the middle ground. So where do you think that's coming from? Like in the nefesh and the psyche, where's the lack in
the way that the Nachman is describing it is that's giving smicha to the Rebbe She'ena Hagim. People like being extremists. I'll tell you why. It's actually much easier to be an extremist. I put up my flag, this is what I am. It's easier, but it's oftentimes shallower. If I can't hear someone else's opinion, or won't even listen to it, so I've become very tribal. And what we really want to do is to get beyond that. We want to get to a place of real mature listening, interfaith dialogue, hearing, being with people, sharing with people. That's a very, very powerful place to be. And in that place, you're really creating much more unity. You're hearing points out. Now, somebody may make a point and you disagree with it, but you could speak to that point and they could speak back to that point. And then hopefully each side will have enough maturity that they can acquiesce. And that's what we're doing in yeshiva basically all day. You're going to say a pshat and Rashi. And your chavru's going to say, that's not the pshat and Rashi. And you're going to say, tell me why you don't think it's pshat and Rashi. And he's like, I don't know. So why don't you acquiesce to my pshat? I'm saying a good pshat and Rashi. I'm making perfect sense in Rashi. So it's a very, very important thing. So the more that you could hear, and we invite all our friends around the world to share with us, also write where you're writing from, where you're listening from. It's always a pleasure to have everybody here. Thank you so much for all the positive comments. Yeah.
I just have a question. I don't know if it's going to be around the conversation a bit or not.
In Lakute Cafe, we create space for, balance in all the questions.
Great. So what I was thinking is that how can this relate to our inner selves? Because like the evil's embedded within ourselves, our body, and everything. So we have two sides, like in ourselves, like what's this side, that side, and in the end we have to judge who's gonna make the decision. So how can we find that middle ground, so to say, within ourselves when we're like? So
give me any situation that you felt some struggle. Any single thing. What's your name again, my friend? Daniel. Any situation, doesn't have to be so personal. Any situation that there was some struggle where you felt there were sides, ever in your life, anything.
Stubbornness.
to paint me the situation. I was in this place and I felt this. Maybe I'll build on it a little bit. So let's say stubbornness. So your friend tells you, do you want to come with us to go play basketball? And you had in mind that you're going to watch, the latest episode of Lost. I don't know if the show still exists. Or the 36th season of Simpsons. So your stubbornness is telling you, I have a plan. I'm not going out. I'm set in my ways to watch the 36th season of Simpsons. And I'm not budging from that. Good morning, it's hard. I'm not budging from that. I'm set in those ways. Well, the old me, let's call it, the stubborn me, was one-sided, and any single time a person tried to ask me to do something that was different than my stubborn, extremist view, caused me to not even listen to another option. Whatever that might be. And that will crop up in every single situation in life. Now, if I only listen to what other people are asking me to do, and I just become a yes man, is that also a good thing? No, because I'm being an extremist on the other side. And just basketball, sure. This, sure, no problem. Is there nothing that's admirable about being stubborn? Of course there is. Even the Torah calls the Jewish people an am kashei oirif. We're a stiff-necked, stubborn people. Now, is stubbornness bad? Well, sometimes it is. If you should be waking up for shacharit and you're stubborn about keeping that snooze button, giving it parnasa by hitting it all those times, so that's not a good thing. But if somebody says, well, let's go serve idols, and you say, I'm pretty stubborn not to do that, then that's actually very admirable to be stubborn not to go serve it. So I'm able to, in that situation, hear, and this is what it calls the emunis chachams, I believe in my own chachma, to be able to see all the signs. Maybe it is actually a good thing for me to be less stubborn about sitting and watching the 36 episodes of Simpsons. And really I should be going out and playing ball with the boys. But I hear that maybe, I played basketball yesterday, my leg's hurting a little bit. Maybe it's actually better that I rest a little bit today. Rest days are important. Anybody in the workout world. So I'm able to actually hear all the sides as opposed to just being set on a stubborn dude, and therefore I just stay in my Simpsons universe. Emunas Chachamim would be, let me hear out and then find what's the middle path. What is, or maybe, I'm a bit stubborn because I do want to watch this episode, but I'll meet you guys there in 20 minutes. So all of a sudden, it's not a yes or no. Emunas Chachamim means I'm finding the middle path. Lo yisasar liyamin or small. I'm not going to the extremes on either side. Yes, Dylan.
Back in the conversation, I find the conversation where people are being stubborn and attacking you a lot easier because they actually want to commit in dialogue. What about the conversation where they'll say something against you and they'll be like, no more conversation, I don't want to talk about it. But you have to live with this person.
So that's hard because it looks like they're lacking in emunas chachamim. That they're not open to any more dialogue. But also, maybe you should be aware that maybe sometimes that when a conversation ends, maybe that is the middle path of this conversation. I'll give you a good example. Sometimes, I was one time asked, what's the best piece of marriage advice you ever got? So I said, I'm not sure the best piece, but I can tell you the worst piece of marriage advice that people think is the best piece of marriage advice. You probably heard it before. Never go to bed angry. It's great advice, right? Just never go to bed angry. That's the worst piece of advice ever. You know why? Because you're up, and you're discussing something, and it turns into an argument, and now it's it's like 11, midnight, 1 in the morning, because never go to bed angry, never go to bed angry. But you see you're not resolving it. Now it's 2 in the morning, and you're still going, because shouldn't we never go to bed angry? But this thing, but shouldn't, So what's gonna happen? 3 in the morning, 4, you're gonna not go to bed, both of you have lives, you're gonna wake up the next day, be exhausted the entire day, be more upset because you're just super tired. And now there's gonna be this absolute, just building on the upsetness of the conversation. You know what would be the best thing to do? Just go to bed. And likely you'll wake up the next morning and be like, I don't want to fight. Like, who wants to do that? You wake up and you're like, it's just not worth fighting about. So sometimes the best thing is just, you know what the middle path is? Why don't we just go to bed now? And we can speak about it more tomorrow. Let's just end the conversation. That's actually the middle path. Yes, do we have a conversation to have? Yes. Should we completely stop the conversation? No, because that would just be insensitive to say. We're never talking about, I want to have the conversation. Let's continue tomorrow. So you ended the conversation, but you let there be an openness. So maybe sometimes when the person's like, this is it. You could say, maybe we'll end the conversation now, but maybe in the future we can revisit this. So you're coming to a middle path that sometimes, yes, ending is the middle path. Dov? Dovi.
So what if you agree to have the conversation at a later point, and let's say you wake up or it's the next day, whatever, and you both agree it's just not worth fighting over. But you still, because you
sounds good to me. We don't want couples fighting.
Well, I'm saying even, interpersonal, like friendships, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Those are also in couples,
Right. But you both agree not to have this argument anymore, but there's still that existing resentment. So at a later date, when you have a different argument, maybe one of you will bring up, but last time, whatever, So you chose not to have that argument, but you still have that resentment for each other.
So then you could share it at a later time, maybe over steak and wine. Sometimes conversations can be had when a person's like in a good place and they feel relaxed. There's certain conversations, B'ezrat Hashem, you guys will all get married to a wonderful woman, and you'll realize that there's certain times to have certain conversations, and there's certain times to not have certain conversations. If you come home and there's something on your mind you really want to deal with, and your wife is stressed out, and the kids, everything's flying, the house is upside down, and the baby's screaming, and your wife is tired, and you're like, can we actually just sit down? I have a really important conversation now. It's not the time to have an important conversation. What about later when all the kids are sleeping, and you're having dinner together, and there's like a moment of like, then you could open up that conversation. That's also Munus Chachamim, is that yes, there needs to be a conversation, but it doesn't have to be now, but we could find when the right time would be to have the conversation. This whole Torah is based on this concept of balance, and what's called Hanhagas Yesharis, living a life where you're living in a very balanced way. Yossel, and then it's Ezra? Isaac. Sorry. You have the Lent vibe now.
Is it wrong or right to never have a resolution? Say, this is my opinion, that's your opinion, be done with it, or should you reach a point? Should you reach an answer?
We all come from God. All of humanity is made in the image of God. There's always a place that we can unify. You could have differences of opinions, that's fine. But that the difference of opinions you've come to in a civil, in a respectful way, that's a mature way to approach differences of opinions. Is that we can actually have a place where we disagree, and that's okay. Look at the Gemara. The Gemara says that the rabbis would be fighting the Milchamta Shel Torah. Torah is like a war, and people are very opinionated. But it says that when you learn Gemara, it's like you're in a war. But when the rabbis would walk out of the Beis Medrash, they would be like arm in arm, Nasa Ahuvim, Zem. They were like best friends. Because when you're really fighting for truth, because each side is not taking it personally, but we're all trying to get to truth. So then hearing different opinions make human beings closer. It's like, would you like to have a symphony of 1,000 violins? It's nice, violins are very beautiful instrument, especially if the person knows how to play it. But I'd rather have a symphony that has 1,000 different instruments, and I hear different opinions, different thoughts, different colors. Humanity is a very vibrant mosaic, and Hashem knew what He was doing by creating different people. Like the Gemara says, "Kashem shepartzufeim shel adam shoynim zu bizu." In the same way that people's faces are different, so too deoiseiim shoynes zu mizu. So too their way of thinking and their thoughts are different. And God knew what He was doing. He created different ways of thinking and seeing the world. But there's a place that we could all meet. You know what that place is? Under the one God. And that's really what the Messianic era is going to usher in, is it says that all of humanity will unify together. Will all unify together under one God. And you know who was doing this? Our great Zaidi, Avram Avinu. He was bringing all sorts of pagans, all sorts of chevra. Could you imagine what Abraham's tent looked like? I'm sure there was a lot of different chevra in there. We're talking about like Ur costume, real like, these guys were like, you know, the people that walked around with like shrunken heads and like bones, like tattoos on their eyeballs and stuff, like hardcore chevra. I'm saying like this is like not like your regular run-of-the-mill like nice teenage boys. It's not like this is like hardcore chevra. And everybody found a place in the tent of Abraham. Everybody. That is a unification within diversity. And that's really what the time of Mashiach is going to usher in. And really that's what the Torah really ends with, and we're going to get to next week, is that so much of what the Messianic unfolding will be this amazing unity within diversity. That every single person will feel they have a place within the unity. We mentioned an analogy yesterday, is that God is the infinite light. Hugh, very nice to see you. Thank you so much of all the positive comments. We mentioned an analogy that God being the infinite light and us being like a vase, a crystal vase. So when the light goes through the vase, what do you see projected? You see a rainbow. You see a beautiful illumination of colors. Now, where are those colors? Are they in the vase or in the light? In the light. So when you would see the colors on the wall, so you would think, well, that's multiplicity, but the white light is unity. You know what? This is deep. All the colors are really revealing what is inside the light. They're not a contradiction to the unity of the light. They're a revelation of the unity of the light. So you and I were the refracted colors of the white light. But what happened to humanity? This one said, I'm team blue, I'm team red, I'm team yellow. You're not team purple, and I am. So that is such a tragedy, because it's really coming from a lack of understanding that we're just different colors that are all really within the white light of God. And in the times of Mashiach, all the diversity, we're not going to become less diverse. We're not all going to become like robots. This is not, a robot world. To the contrary, Punkt verkehr. What's going to happen is that we're all going to celebrate our diversity, but realize that it's all a revelation of the one white light. That we're all within the white light, and therefore our diversity will be celebrated. People are going to celebrate diversity, except if you disagree with me. No, we actually are talking about celebrating diversity because we're all from the one white light, which is the infinite light of God. So if you really meditate on this, it really means that the Messianic era is going to be a time of so much unity and so much diversity at the same time, but the diversity is not a contradiction to the unity. It's a revelation of the unity. That analogy is enough to take you your entire life and start to see human beings in a much more elevated way, and gives you a feel of what the days of Mashiach will have in store. And all of this, by the way, is the secret of Rosh Hashanah. The Rosh Hashanah, which is the day of absolute unity, it's the day of single focus on the white light and the King, but at the same time, it's the celebration of the kingdom, which is you and I. It's the celebration of the human being who was created on Rosh Hashanah. So we have on the same day the celebration of the colors, but at the same time, an awareness that all the colors are coming from the infinite one light, and that we're able to acknowledge where we come from and celebrate the King and the unity of the King. This is really what Rosh Hashanah is all about. And Rosh Hashanah is the big, big day of the year. So Bezrat Hashem will pick up with this next week. We should be Zoich. We also have a shir today at 2 o'clock in the conference room. We should be Zoich, my dear friends, to grow together, to understand that we want to hear different sides. We want real emunus chachamim, and with that, we'll usher in the great days of Mashiach Tzidkenu, the big days of Mikdash, b'mehera v'yameinu, amen v'amen. Amen. Oya v'ashkeinu, madov v'keinu, madayim yoradeinu. Oya v'ashkeinu, madov v'keinu, madayim yoradeinu. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, la 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 la. La